Hey guys, Luton here. So an update on the DICE DLC on hold issue. Now it's been updated and an EA representative said today that the work being done to stabilise Battlefield 4 does not impact our release schedule for future titles. This is in part to do with a few things, the kind of damaging effect it's had to EA stock and all of this kind of stuff this week. We'll get into that a little bit as well. But I wanted to clarify some things. As I said in the previous video, upcoming DLCs it seems are not going to be affected by this effort. It seemed obvious that was the case. It also seems that this was, if you want to call it a fix for Battlefield 4, it also seemed more likely that this was in line with a PR statement to basically appease the player base than necessarily like a legitimate redistribution of dev resources. On the other hand, the fact that it's been taken note of, by actually EA to the point of actually making these press releases, it's no doubt a move that's going to please some people or embitter others. I want to thank everybody. Okay, I want to thank everyone on the last video. It was an excellent dialogue, and there was a lot of decent discussion from different perspectives, and that just is reaffirming to me that I've got such an awesome subscriber base. You guys always give really good comments, really good thoughts, and it's great to go through and read them all. But also, in reading through many of the comments, I spent some time doing this and thinking since that video went out that my opinion on the issue of what quality we should expect and how to react to that as a community. I also think that myself, I have not necessarily clearly articulated my position, or at least why I stand where I do on some aspects, in what some people perceive as an overly positive, or to directly quote people, an apologist for DICE. Okay. When people say that I'm in the pocket of DICE or EA, it's kind of funny, mainly because those people have obviously forgotten that I've made multiple videos in the past calling out pretty major failings in the game, such as, for example, the lack of tutorial mode. I made a couple of videos talking about that and how it really should be in the game, and that was back in Battlefield 3. Well, they now have that in Battlefield 4, so that's a great thing that they've sort of taken that on board. Not from me, okay, it's just a great thing that they've sort of thought of that and put it into the game now. It's great that they sort of can take, these ideas forward. And also, my technical breakdown of the ECM mechanic, okay, the ECM in Battlefield 3. That was one of my most, if not the most successful video I have ever made. It stands now well over, I think, 200,000 views, and that was where I dissected the ECM tool in Battlefield 3. I did a huge breakdown on it, and I concluded in the simplest terms that it was totally broken, and it made no sense in terms of the mechanic, the way it worked. This was posted through the Pixel Enemy website, or the YouTube I should say, and I've linked that down in the notes below, so if you've never seen it before, go check it out. It's an older video, so the commentary style's a little different, but the content is there. I even made follow-up videos after that with the technical updates that came with patches to correct and reaffirm, and I still came to the same conclusion that it was totally ballsed up. And that video went on Battlelog as well, kind of mistakenly. That was a funny story actually, but for another day. Now, as regards to the release of Battlefield 4, the main reason that I don't buy into the associated frustrations, it's not because I haven't experienced them for myself. I have. I've had days where the game crashed out 20 times in a row, and I got annoyed. I said to the guys while we were playing, I was like, oh, the F is this? Like crashing. Terrible netcode, hit detection, the AA locking you through buildings, the sound bug, just no sound, the straight pull bolt, the straight pull bolt in the gun, and I was firing, and I could see the bullet trail go off to the side like 45 degrees. What the hell is that? One hit damage bug kills, and a ton of this other crap. But this isn't the reason that I appear to be less frustrated. The reason is more because over the years I have developed like a deep cynicism and like a desensitization, if you will, for how many times a game I have looked forward to has been released and then has terrible flaws or bugs or just general crap. And not just with full releases, but with DLCs, expansions, all of this kind of stuff. And it's gone to the point now where I just simply expect it. And that is one of the reasons why when I see people shouting, "This will not stand!" and I think, well, that's not changed for the past 15 years, and I strongly doubt that it's suddenly going to alter anytime soon. And I don't forget that, as an older gamer years ago, games, they were not even able to update via patching. I mean, people sort of take it for granted now, but for me, it's like a huge deal that you can just update a game. On a day you can just patch it and it's fixed. There was a great article I read a little while back by Sid Meier, the creator of Civilization, the Civilization games, and he was reminiscing about the first games that he created of Civilization, and obviously back then they didn't have sort of the net and stuff, and it was funny because he said he would get handwritten letters in the post from players who had bought the game, giving criticism and then suggestion. So they would actually write physical letters and send them to him as a dev and say, hey, this doesn't work in the game. When you make the next game, can you fix it, please? Can you imagine that now? Because there was no other way of doing that than passing it along at the time. Now, if the question of the matter is, should we expect a perfect title at release, then my answer to that is 100% yes. If you buy any product, from a toaster to a car to a smartphone, you expect it to work as described out of the box. You do. As a consumer, you expect that. But I think that just as any gamer who has experienced from the past, you've got to be naive to expect that that's going to be the case as a certainty with a game. It's unfortunate and it's not right, but it's just the way it is. Now, should we be happy about that, as if it doesn't meet our expectations? Absolutely not. We should constructively critique as hard as possible, point out these flaws so that they can fix the problems as quickly as possible. But if you look at the general rhetoric that often goes on compared to the more constructive side of things, so if you look at kind of forum posts, people raging about things and sort of making things saying, I never do this and da-da-da, and then you look at, for example, like Jack Fragg's video where he posted talking about the damage multiplier, and he showed in specific analytic detail exactly how that worked. Which do you think is more constructive? But the point is that once it's out there, the question of what should or shouldn't have happened, it really is largely irrelevant, because by that time it's not something that can be changed. So we are only left to look at what can be done and not arguing over what should have been done. Could they have released it several months later? It's not out of the realms of possibility. But would this have resolved all of the issues that we have today? I think I can say with some strong certainty that it absolutely would not. And making the loudest protesting about delaying the release, it's ultimately unlikely to change anything. Just look at the catastrophic release of COD Black Ops and its concurrent sequels. For that, I mean, if you look at that, so much disastrous effect on that release. Did anything happen? Did anything change? Nothing, whatever, not at all. But sales figures, they will have an impact, a strong impact, and make a producer and a developer take note. And we have seen that this week. Look at the way that EA has responded to the sales figures. Battlefield 4 sales figures down on Battlefield 3 figures at this time, okay? And that is what is taking this line of effect. They're looking at this and they're going, Jesus Christ, these effects in the game are having a knock-on effect to sales, and that is what it is going to matter, the voting on the ground. So I'm not entirely disregarding what people are saying, but some of you may remember from my tweets and comments throughout the past 12 months, I made it, well, that's a long time, but I made it absolutely clear that I would not pre-order the game, as I saw very little point in doing that. And that leads us to the entirely separate issue to discuss another time, and that's the matter of pre-order bribery. And this was no doubt part of the problem, that people are offered a golden carrot in the form of a DLC to pre-order, and that's why so many of you guys are annoyed, and I understand that as well, that you put your money into something ahead of time, and then you feel like, okay, I've got this here, and then it comes, and it's not what you want. Whereas if you wait, and the title comes out, you can see it, you can look at the reviews, and then you can make a decision based off that. But unless people literally vote with their buying power, then the rest of the discussion, it's not entirely pointless, but in many, many ways it does kind of become immaterial. Now, am I biased? Am I apologetic or unfair? I don't believe that I am. I speak only, from my own experience as a gamer, and also, I have to take into account that from speaking to people at DICE, which I've done with a lot of different people in a lot of different sort of sections there. Now, knowing that they want to produce a title of high quality, and this has been, I've spoken to very recently, and whether you want to believe it or not, they are just as frustrated as the community. I mean, would anybody want to work so hard and put everything of themselves into a product, but then it doesn't pan out how you wanted it to, and you suddenly get all this crap? I can't think of something much more frustrating than that you work so hard for something and then it all kind of just, it must be really, really unbearable. But things, they don't always work out the way we want them to. And now, as I say, could releasing it at a later date, a lot of you guys have said this, would that have solved it? It would have made some difference, I'm sure. It would have, obviously it would have made some difference. But I still believe that it's a better choice to release it and deal with that, with the power of the community behind it that Battlefield has, and that's just my personal opinion. Because for sure you can delay it back, and you can say all you like about them being a big powerful company and they should have the resources to do it, but it's simply the fact that if you put it out there and then people are going to run it. Now there is a definite question, okay, this is a real thing of, look, with the way that this release has gone, now people before have said about the beta, it's not a real beta, etc. I feel like it's 50-50. It is a beta in as much as like they really did sort of take on board, I think, from Shanghai a lot of the issues there, but at the same time it's not the kind of beta like, for example, Arma 3. But are they ever going to do that? I don't know. Off of this release, it would definitely suggest it's not a bad idea to do this. And perhaps what you could do is you could say, look, okay, if you want early access, alright, if you pay up front maybe a small fee, okay, I don't know how much, you pay a fee to get into the beta, alright, so that's your choice, you know that it's going to be a beta, you know it's not going to be a full product, you pay to get in on that, and maybe to do, you know, maybe in doing so, then they say, okay, look, if you want to support us and help us with the beta, you put money in, and then we will perhaps give you these expansions or whatever with the full release of the game. So then that way, if it gets to full release and it's still not what you wanted to, well, you haven't lost that much, and it's your choice. If you want to wait then still to the full release and you want to wait and see reviews, then you can do that as well. So I think perhaps personally that would be a better way to go, and off of this release I think it would actually be a wise thing to do that. Now, just to bring something else in here, the Google Plus situation I think is a great example of just how people relate to things nowadays, and it's a good example of how people can roll over so quickly. When it released, you know, only the other day, people were proclaiming that it was going to be like the start of this resistance, and we saw so much. I was pissed off, you know, I was super annoyed, but I wasn't really up for doing anything. I was just kind of like, yeah, this is super annoying. But anyway, but we saw the anger of that is spread like wildfire, and within 3 to 5 days though, these rebel freedom fighters, you know, Bob and his tank, seemingly disappeared and been replaced just by kind of disgruntled moaners who were just accepting it and just be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it really just became like a meh issue. It was just nothing. And this is pretty much, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen very soon with Battlefield 4. It's already happened before, because I rarely see people referencing how bad and bugged the release of Battlefield 3 was. Many people have already seemingly forgotten that for several weeks we were plagued equally with crashes, weapon bugs, a variety of other problems. And whilst there are still things to fix, I know, for example, the consoles have got more issues probably now than the PC from what I'm hearing from people, but once those things get resolved and we're left with just the small bits and pieces, you're definitely going to see people going like, oh, there's still this and this, but yeah, I can play the game. And that's kind of how I feel like right now, you know, it's like I can play pretty strongly for most evenings. Sometimes you have a couple of issues, but overall it's pretty good, and that's how it feels. So I guess in conclusion, my own thoughts on the issue related to the quality of releases is that it's not unreasonable to expect quality, and if that is not delivered, then we should of course highlight and demand that it's fixed, but in a constructive way. And if you feel that this is unpalatable, then it's your choice as a consumer to return the product for a full refund, and from there on you can make a decision based from your past experience. You may remember, like I said, that with the release of Black Ops 2, I was willing to give COD another chance, even though it had been terrible before for me. But I wanted to give it another chance because I thought, okay, it's been a decent amount of time, they surely have learned. But when I played the game out, it was the same thing. And I gave them a bit of a time frame to fix the game to a reasonable level, and nothing, not even any communication. This didn't happen. So I went back to the shop, and surprisingly, even though it had been like, I don't know, 10, 12 days, 14, it was like a couple of weeks maybe, but the store gave me a full refund. And my conclusion from that experience was that I would not be purchasing a COD title again, and not until, for example, it had released and I saw reviews, gameplay and understanding from other people, and then off of that I would make a choice. So I have not said I will never buy a COD game again. What I have said is that when it releases, I will not buy it release, I will see what it's like and then make my decision based off of that. Now, I feel despite what some people have said that the overall release of Battlefield 4 it's far from perfect. But at the very least, we have seen communication from the developer and I feel a good effort to resolve these problems. And I know that some people are still suffering issues that they consider to be game breaking, but there are plenty of people, including myself, and I've seen this in the comments. When I looked at my last video, I saw a good balance. So there's people who can very easily play all night without really suffering any major problems, and a lot of the people that I play with as well would agree with that. Now, this topic is a broad one and there are many angles that everyone has their own views on, so in the discussion around this topic, guys, I would just request to keep it constructive and respectful. At the end of the day, what we all want is to have a great experience with a game that we love. I hope this has helped to clear up some of the points around this issue, and we'll see what the coming weeks hold for Battlefield 4 across all platforms.